let's hop into Tang Gang. So we just saw Marco talk about he's loaded up on a Tropa. One thing I noticed with Marco, okay, he clearly heavily invested in Icosa a few months back, and all our chat was Icosa, Icosa, Icosa. I remember one night. Now he may have uncomfortably invested in a Tropa, maybe Pete and Teddy Bear. More power to him. I own them all. But yeah, shout out to you, Marco. I'm glad you're involved. Let's get into the Tang Gang stuff here. So there's a lot of angles to cover here. So if you're not, I'm not going to do the whole history of the Tang Gang, but basically, HOA Hex Orange Address was basically the first token of the Tang Gang. Okay, Too Spooky is not like the Tang Gang, but he's the guy on Twitter that is, he's created the bulk of the tokens within the Tang Gang on PulseChain. Peach, Nanana, whatever else, PPAP, all these, fruit, rat, whatever else. And if I misspeak on any of this for any Tang Gang, super fans, correct me, please. But Too Spooky, got Orange Gooey. I think he's like the main guy that kind of started it all. I don't know. But Too Spooky seems to be very active on Twitter, and he's a really good follow. But he just launched another token, Peach, the other night. I believe Ewok and I both degened, unless you didn't want me to tell them that you did, Ewok. I already did. So I'm curious what your thoughts are as we see another token come out from the Tang Gang. I have been avidly watching and following. Hex Tangent made this beautiful Tang Gang Sharks Excel sheet that shows you like how much it takes to be a shark. It has all the tokens that are official Tang Gang tokens, so people don't get scammed if there's somebody that pretends they're affiliated with the Tang Gang and they're really not. It has all kinds of quantitative stuff about it, what the memes mean and things like that. It's fantastic. Like a whole
share it with me. I'll put it up.
I will. Yeah, it's very, very comprehensive of everything they have going on. And again, I think it's a good safety thing for people to have to know that they're really dealing with the Tang Gang. But so many tokens have been launched now, many of them fruit related, basically. And I'm wondering, a lot of people are saying they've all performed very, very well. Like we just see that what's beautiful about them is they're all fair launched. They come out of nowhere. Like Peach, I think that was on Thursday or Friday night, and I ran to my computer real quick to buy a bag on its way up as it just launched. That's what happens with these. I did the same thing with Nanana. I think this is awesome. Like I love that they do this. It's a fair launch. It comes out of nowhere. It's unannounced usually. And then it's just all systems go. And, I bought PPAP. I've had a good 5 or 6x off of that so far. And, what I want to ask is like, they have been performing so well. It would stand to reason for somebody to ask with so many tokens. I think Axis alluded to this before. Many other people would ask, at what point is there some kind of a dilution effect? Like, can that happen? Will that happen to these tokens? Because right now, none of them are really showing any sign of that. Just the other day, of course, it was a Sami video, and he talks about something that hasn't really lifted off yet, and it will. But he talked about the Trump token, OMG, Orange Man Good. Giant green candles all of a sudden. I would wait for a pullback on something like that. But it's just insane what they're doing here. And at this point, I understand not everybody's into memes and stuff like that, but something's going on here with these guys. Something clearly is going on, and people have a thirst for this. It doesn't matter if you don't like it, anybody, but they do. So anyway, give me your thoughts on all this, Ewok. Because it really seems like it is turning. I messaged you today. KDP finally is mixing it up in memes. I never thought I would see it. Today she's talking about, dick with butt is better than bear or whatever. I'm like, KDP's even into memes now. So, yeah, what do you make of this? I'm interested to get your take.
Well, I have mixed emotions, mixed feelings, obviously, coming from what I know and what, with Hex, the way things kind of started out. But we kind of have to, obviously, when you start a layer one, you have to really let your, you don't have to let your guard down, but you have to be more open to all of these things happening, right? Right. You want the network to grow. And it's funny because, this we'll talk about this maybe after this conversation, but the difference between Metcalfe's law and Reed's law, right? Mm-hmm. Reed's law is all these different communities that have kind of sprung up, right? You've got the Tang Gang, you've got the B Roots group, you've got the Axis and
Mhm.
their Solid X protocol, and you've got the PH guys, and you've got
Yep.
it's just all of these little things that are onboarding new people even into their group before it really goes into the full group, right? It's still all PulseChain, but each one of these guys or each one of these groups are still responsible for their onboards too, until they find out the rest of this stuff. So it's very cool. These guys have a very strong liquidity provider mentality background,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
They want you to buy in and then provide liquidity. If you want to get out, use the liquidity to get out, because that way it doesn't harm the price. You're not going to see these crazy candles. People are going to buy into your bids if you have single-sided liquidity, and it allows you to exit. You can pick a price. Where do you want to get out? Um, and set it and kind of forget it. So it's their stuff, their teachings could definitely be used in the rest of the space.
Mhm.
Um, as far as not harming price, not having these huge red candles. And a lot of times you don't tend to see those. I mean, they happen occasionally. People are going to be impatient there. You could even have haters that get in early just to get out and dump the price on people because they don't like them. I think a
Right.
lot of people did that to Hex in the very beginning. I think they didn't care about it. They wanted their gains. They didn't care about the price. They dumped it all at once instead of setting limit orders to get out safely and without hurting the price, without creating red candles, things like that. So, yeah, I'm impressed with them. I kind of think as much as Too Spooky and Orange Gooey. Orange Gooey was, I think, one of the I think he's the one that kind of started a lot of this stuff. He went on
I think
the spaces a lot with talking about memes, right? I mean, that was their big push, was that the memes are what gets adoption, especially for Twitter. When you're on
so.
Twitter, the memes are the things that capture people's attention. And that's what they've pushed along with the providing liquidity. So it's a little bit different than others. But listen, man, we need all of them. We need all of these groups. So I've never had. They're a little toxic sometimes. I've seen and I've heard people go into their Telegram and ask for help, and they kind of, you know, it's always the ones that are serious about asking for help they get kind of turned off by some of the toxicity. But again, you're going to have that on Twitter. It's a degen wasteland, especially, and that's the only criticism that I would have of this particular group, is that I've heard reports of a lot of people saying that there's a lot of toxicity within that. So for them to be hopefully be a little bit more accepting of people that are trying to learn, they get pointed in that direction, and be patient with them a little bit. I know people can be, when they're learning, it can be a pain in the ass, but you're only going to help improve the network growth and things like that when you do walk them through it a little bit. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
all really
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
And I want to answer Vanilla the Hexican's question here, because you were kind of just alluding to this. I'll be honest with you, totally honest. I don't pay attention to really hardly any drama on Twitter. And
Yeah.
if there is any with some of those guys, okay, I really, the prices of the charts are going up, and I like what they're doing in that regard. So I don't even know what else is going on there. But shout out Vanilla the Hexagon. He's talking about, I was telling him Twitter is a good resource, for finding out like if a new token drops or like little pieces of news like that. And, he talks about it being such a cancer. And it definitely is, just like Ewok just alluded to. But, don't follow those people or mute them. Find the people that have good info, put alerts on for them, and mute everything else. Like you can use Twitter in a way that blocks out all the noise and just gets you the good stuff. Because trust me, there are gems out there, and if you could just put alerts on for certain people like that, and ignore some of the other drama, then, you know, I think you'll be fine. So that's what I do. That's how I got into Peach as soon as it came out. I think Too Spooky tweeted about it, and I saw Sami did. And, you know, it's not like I got in on the ground floor. I just knew riding that initial green candle up was probably going to be beneficial, and it has so far. So